the day, and we just want to make sure we have a few little caretaking bits taken care of. So if you have any questions throughout the conversation and presentations, please feel free to put them in the chat. We have some of our Woods advisors monitoring the chat who can answer questions or who will bring them out to the group. Also know that we'll be having a hopefully lively discussion after we work through the presentation to help you all kind of get yourself oriented to what we've spoken about and clarify anything if you feel like you need clarification. Okay, Kyle and Lena, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. Thank you. So we want to begin today with a broad overview, thinking about adolescent education in the context of Montessori's philosophy about human development and the purpose of education and how we should reform education. So you can go to the next slide, and what you'll see here is a quote from a lecture that Montessori gave, where she invited the attendees to imagine the adolescent as a newborn, but not a physical newborn, rather a social newborn, who arrives in a new world. This world is unknown, and it's a world that he's thrust into and must live. So go to the next slide, and you'll see how she has created this is called the bulb chart of human development. And we could spend all afternoon really analyzing all the aspects of this chart, but I just want to draw your attention to a couple of key features of this. You'll notice the two large bulbs at the first and third plane of human development. The size of those represent their importance in terms of the change, the transformation that's taking place. So that first large bulb at the left side shows the plane of infancy, the extraordinary, tumultuous disequilibrium and development that's happening. It's a very hot, energetic, creative period. And then it moves into this relatively calm phase in childhood, a relatively uniform growth, or compared anyway to infancy and early childhood. And then the chart bulbs out again in adolescence. And you'll notice also the color of red. So it's this hot, turbulent, creative, energetic period in the third plane of human development. And thus, we need to design an educational model that maximizes the potential opportunities at these creative moments. Now, that's not to say that childhood and maturity, the second and fourth plane, aren't important. Every plane matters because the human is a continuum, sort of an ongoing creative work. But we have these opportunities in the first and third plane to really maximize that creative energy. So if you'll click once, there should be a quote. Yes. So education, the big shift in Montessori education is this, that education is not doing something to the child or the adolescent, but rather education ought to work with the natural tendencies, the natural creative rhythm in human development, and maximize the opportunities that nature already has latent, waiting to burst forth. So if we create an educational system around that, then we can maximize the natural laws that govern human development. So we see here the soul is not a stone for sculpting according to the artist's talent, but is free energy whose expression and unfolding obeys its own inner laws. So if we create an educational system that's not aligned with and in harmony with nature, we can't repress that free energy. It will manifest. And so we need to work with it rather than against it. Okay, next slide. So therefore, the aim of any secondary program, any adolescent program, is to widen education rather than restrict it. And what she's referring to here is not restricting education purely to the cerebral, to the intellectual, to the academic. She's not saying we shouldn't have those aspects in a secondary program. We should include those, but we have to widen what we think about in terms of, in this case, what education is really all about for the adolescent. And remember, the adolescent is a social newborn thrust into a world that is unknown. So we have to, just like we have to give the infant, the early childhood toddler, that physical orientation to the world and help them learn to walk and do all those motor movements themselves. Well, we need an education for the adolescent that helps them navigate the abstract social world that has all these new demands and requirements and goes far beyond the scope of just purely academic requirements, but really answering their deeper questions of why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my larger calling? What's my mission? How can I contribute to the greater good of my community and humanity writ large? These are those deep human questions that adolescents are really starting to ponder, which is why the plan of reform aims above all at the valorization of the adolescent personality. Valorization means a sense of dignity, a sense of self-worth, a sense that I matter, I have contributions to give, and I can make the world a better place. So those are the high outcomes, the ultimate aims of any adolescent program, and thus those are some of the larger goals that define our work with adolescents here at Community Montessori.
Okay, next we're going to jump up into a week in the life of our teen learners. And really this next section is going to be a taste of how we build an amicable relationship between Montessori's vision of valorization and delving into the personality of the teen that Kyle was speaking about, as well as Indiana's vision of a high school graduate. And so in the first slide here, we're jumping right into Indiana graduation pathways. And so you might hear this a lot from your teens who are in the woods right now or coming up soon, because this is Indiana's new attempt to widen the opportunities for teens and give them a little bit more choice in how they graduate. Historically, in previous years, our teens would take a graduation qualifying exam, such as the I-STEP or I-LEARN. And it was always quite difficult because it felt like a very stringent pathway. Though in the last couple of years, it seems like Indiana has really responded even to some of our guidance and opened it up so that we can personalize this just a little bit more. So there are essentially 3 buckets that have to be achieved by all of our teens in the time that they are in high school. One is they need to earn a high school diploma. The next is that they have to show they have employability skills. And the third is that they complete a very fancy sounding post-secondary ready competency. And so this is kind of just the overview of what that might look like for your teen. And I think it's important to know that we work with your teens on guiding them through this, and we work with you, all the families, on guiding them through this, so no one is alone in this process. They'll have options for 3 different diplomas up here in the woods, and we have teens who are currently earning all of these diplomas or have earned all of these diplomas. And they all differ just a little bit, which you can see on the chart here. The next thing for their employability skills, they're required to show either the service-based learning experience, the work-based learning experience, or the project-based learning experience. But because of our integrated skill set at Community Montessori, they're actually going to end up graduating showing all 3 of these different types of employability skills because they're part of our graduation portfolios, which we'll talk about in a couple more slides. And so the ones that we look at specifically are our philanthropy portfolio for our service-based learning, our entrepreneurship portfolio for our work-based learning, and our capstone portfolio for the project-based learning, which takes place in their final year with us. The post-secondary ready competency is the major part that has replaced what we traditionally knew as the I-Step 10. And they can show this by either earning some type of honors diploma or completing something called the Career Technical Education Concentrator, or CTE. And I usually explain that as being like a mini technical major. Or they can complete the SAT or 3 dual credit courses that are either college preparatory or towards some sort of technical skill. And again, kind of circling back to that CTE concentrator, those are courses that could either be in computer science or visual communications or HVAC or human services. We have a whole list that we work with teams to see what they might be most interested in if they are not heading down the pathway of gaining 3 dual credits or an honors diploma. Tracy.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have heard the why behind what we do and looked at the possibilities of how they will achieve that, let's begin to look at the how. Depending on a learner's diploma type, as you could see in the previous slide, they need an average of 40 to 47 credits to graduate. Most of these are required by the state. There are also electives or choice courses and opportunities that they're able to personalize. Our school is unique and that learners can even personalize many of those required courses. So I'd like to start by going through the required courses that we have organized into a learner's 4 years with us, as well as talk about our Montessori requirements along the way. So what you will notice is that as a learner moves along their journey, through the woods, their scheduled courses allow even more choice, and we do that for many reasons. One is that transitioning to high school, even if you grew up in school, is still a transition. So we try to keep that first year similar in that they're doing many things with and in the same ways as their peers they transitioned from the islands with, and to offer a larger level of hands-on support throughout that early transition. They still have choice. So they will choose at least one class in that first year, as well as some other options that we'll talk through on here. Creativity Inc., which is more of the arts opportunities, and our Fitness Friday, which are their PE choices. So inside their courses still they have choice. So I want to make sure that we all understand that or that can appreciate that many of their assignments and projects that they complete will offer choice in that as well. So the other reason to offer choice as they grow is that every learner's path to adulthood is different, right? And this is what Danielle discussed initially, and Kyle as well. What they decide to do beyond our walls decides how we design the path they go on to get there. And that's completely individualized. So in addition to courses, you'll see it through here with routines and objectives and be able to see how they progress towards that independent, more adult state. So this first slide that you see here is a sample 9th year schedule. And so, how do we fit it all in? Very carefully. And so starting here, typically in the 9th year, they will take these courses, Humanities, which is a combination of 2 courses, World History and Civilizations and English 9. They will take a math course. It's usually Algebra 1, depending on the learner. If they have taken a high school math, which is the most common thing that happens as far as experiencing high school courses before high school, they will follow along on the other slides. You'll see how the math courses progress. But Algebra 1 is typically the first one they experience. And they'll take a series of other courses, one of the Woods Foundation courses, Adult Roles and Responsibilities. This is where you will see one of those Montessori requirements we have for graduation, the philanthropy portfolio. And this is that service component that we think is very important as an adulting, right? An adulting skill outside of just the required things by the state. Another foundation course is Preparing for College and Careers. This is really their first step in looking at what they might like to do when they leave, right? When they leave here, go into the adult world. Another science, big history of Earth and space is what we have set for them in that freshman year. And this world language, and this is where they decide if they're going to take it in this year or wait until the next year to experience it. And that depends on the learner. They are required for the honors diploma to have 3 years of a world language in one world language, or 2 in 2 different ones. So depending on what they'd like to experience, this is how we would set up for them. So I talked about the PE. So they will also have choice in that. We call them Fitness Fridays, and they choose a series of quarterly experiences to fit that as well. Routines. I think what's really important is seeing how these progress as the years progress. But routines, we have studio community meetings every day, and that's how we start our day, where they will encounter announcements for the day, opportunities for them to share, and lots of community building opportunities. Creativity Inc. mentioned that previously. These are our arts courses where they can choose from a variety of different arts experiences, everything from performing arts to music to art. Sorry, that to me. Anyway, and these other things as well as they progress. So they start to explore, right? Like, what are the types of experiences they want to have? Thank you, visual, Zach. Thank you so much. Art. That's what I called it. And so, as well as these objectives, so they start to work on self-advocacy, opportunities for them to make their voices heard, and just really starting to approach adulthood by really forming their identity. Okay, Danielle. And again, whoever's in charge. All right, this is a sample 10th year schedule. And so what this shows you is the next progression in their journey as a Woods learner. So in the 10th level year, they will take the second part of that humanities course. That involves English 10 and U.S. history. The next math, which geometry. The next step in their Woods Foundation courses, which is a course called What Are You Thinking? And it mixes together health with the exploration of interpersonal relationships. They will also complete another one of our Montessori graduation requirements, the wellness portfolio, during that course. All of our portfolio requirements, which are our set of graduation requirements that we think are important outside of what the state requires, are supported through these courses in some way. Next science is biology. Another world language. So whether they're starting this year or if they're continuing on their journey. Another opportunity for physical education choice. And then Creativity Inc. So another opportunity for choice of art, as well as this is where their choice opens up a little bit more. They have, in addition to one seminar choice, they have more options to make some opportunities for themselves to start to explore either those career and technical education courses to start personalize their journey. Also the potential this year to take dual credit. So it starts to become more personalized as we get to know them and help them make these choices. Also, you can see the routines and objectives as they progress through these years as well. Okay, go ahead. All right, 11th level year. This is where that choice really starts to open up more and more. By this point, we have really gotten to know these learners and help them formulate a plan that helps them get to the next step in their journey. So, English electives. Beyond English 10, the learners have a lot of choice in how they do that. They can take courses that are more supported through seminars. They can choose to take dual credit courses that will also fill those requirements. They count both for college and for high school. I know you'll hear about that in a wee bit. More choice in math. So Algebra 2. They have the choice between Algebra 2 or Analytical Algebra 2, depending which course plan they're going to go with math. Algebra 2 leads into calculus and calculus, and Analytical Algebra 2 leads more into quantitative reasoning, two very different, both advanced maths that are required for that honors diploma. And as well as your science, they get more choice here. So they have the choice to take just chemistry, by itself, or ICP, which is integrated chemistry and physics, so that they can explore a little bit of both of those. They will take government, and in this course is another one of those portfolio or Montessori graduation requirements. They'll do that inside that course as well. They will continue with world language or be in their second year, depending on when they've started or if they're doing that. Junior seminar. This is something that happens in their 11th level year. And this is where we to support them in those next steps. And so it's the beginning. There's also a senior seminar, as you'll see in the next slide, which supports them even further. And so many of our juniors are getting ready to take the SAT tomorrow. And through junior seminar, they've done a lot of preparation for that, as well as other things, helping them to work towards their transition. Choice, there at the end. Obviously, this is where their seminar choices. They can take government as a seminar. They can take chemistry as a seminar. They can also choose to do those as dual credits, and they can take other things here, more of those career and technical education courses. So a lot of choice opens up here depending on what their path is, as well as our routines and objectives, which continue that transition through internships, which is the specific thing I think over here that's new. And those are opportunities for our 11th level and 12th levels. They continue that to go out into the workforce and experience things that they may want to do as a career in the future. So on Fridays, as our teens go out, they find internships with our support. That's also supported to explore, and they get 4 opportunities to do this, 1 in each semester of their 11th and 12th level year. And so our hope is that they will either explore something they're interested in, but then through those experiences be able to decide, hey, is this something I really want to pursue, or is this maybe not what I thought it was? So very unique opportunities to continue their career. Investigation. Go ahead, I'm sorry. All right, and finally, senior year. I love the graduation hat. So this year is completely, I feel like this is the year that the choice is really just completely open. So learners will decide how they continue those English credits, just like I mentioned before. They can do that through seminars. They can do that through independent pursuits. They can do that through dual credit. The advanced math comes into play here. So if a learner is pursuing an honors diploma, they are required to take an advanced math course. They can do that in a variety of ways as well. If they chose to take Algebra 2 in their 11th level year, then they would continue on to either take pre-calculus or they could take potentially a dual credit math. And the same for if they took Analytical Algebra 2, they would continue to take quantitative reasoning on that path. And also potentially could take a dual credit math. So the next course that they would take, and economics can be taken in either their junior or their senior year, depending on what they've decided to do. But they will also experience a portfolio project in there. And this is the entrepreneurship. So their opportunity to explore what it takes to make money at doing something. So as we see in our economy now, right, we're moving towards an entrepreneurship. We need to lots of skills and goods and services. What does it take to actually make money doing something? So really important, as well as their capstone portfolio, which is supported through senior seminar. Senior seminar supports a lot of things. This is one of them. So that transition out of high school, and the capstone, which is our final portfolio project, and it's incredibly abstract. However, it encompasses their entire experience traveling to adulthood. So all about that journey, and it's looked a lot of ways, and they're always exciting to see. And finally, just choice. Lots of things. They can take seminars, they can do dual credits, they can do, they'll be continuing their internships. So lots of opportunities for choice in this year. But I think that the really important thing, and you heard me say earlier, that a learner's journey happens. While that happens, we help design those experiences uniquely for them. So once they start to get through the required courses, they have more choice in how to complete those last courses and what other experiences they want or need to complete to support the next steps. And all of this happens in weekly meetings that they have with their advisors. We call them advisories. This is where a lot of the magic happens. So Abby is here to talk to us more about how this experience takes place.
We have one more slide there, Tracy, but I can talk about it. I know. Throw it in the end. This is just a very quick overview before we jump to Abby, so sorry, of what our week in the life of a Woods learner looks like. And so this is something that the advisors help the teens keep track of on a day-by-day basis. But we wanted to share it with you all because I think it's important to see how all of this stuff works in throughout the week. So you can see that each day looks just a little bit different. There's morning group every single day, or a community meeting. There is plentiful work cycle time for teens to be working on their individual projects and really learn how to choose and prioritize their time. We have a dual credit offered on our Community Montessori campus each semester that we'll talk about a little bit later, as well as those world languages fit in. Everyone has lunch at the same time at about noon. And then after lunch is when we dig into a lot of our direct instruction courses between those seminar options, algebra, humanities, geometry, all the other maths and languages. Okay, now Abby, I'm turning it over to you.
Excellent. And it's a great segue. We've gotten to talk about the why, and now we've seen a whole lot of details about the how, and that can feel kind of overwhelming, which is why this is the perfect time to talk about advisory. Seems like a lot to keep track of and a lot to plan and organize, and it's the perfect time in life to be learning about those skills of time management. But it would be super helpful to have someone consistent that you get to check in with and ask questions of. And that's what an advisory is. So if you could go to the next slide. Let us remember that interdiscipline is something to come, not something already present. Our task is to show the way to discipline. Okay, so everyone is in a different place with their growth in their time management and trying to organize all the things. And that is part of what an advisor does. Let's go to the next slide. Advisories are a weekly or bi-weekly meeting that is scheduled during work cycles. So every student meets with one of the advisors in their studio for that meeting to get to chat, usually 20 or 30 minutes to get a check-in. They know it's coming. The learner gets to share about each of their courses and how it's going. What is their current standing? What assignments are they currently working on? Do they have any questions or things they need some support with? Do they have celebrations? Those kinds of things. We also have conversations about social and emotional well-being because just the courses you take are not your whole human, right? As we talked about the why to begin with. So the conversations are more than just about your current standing, right? We also have follow-up communication with the family. So we have these weekly meetings. We make sure that our teen and their adults all have an email that says, hey, here's the things we talked about today, so that we can be on the same page. And the part that keeps us all on the same page is the advisory notes. How do we keep track of these meetings and what we talked about? The advisory notes are so important. So yeah, if you could click, there's a link to sample. I don't know if it's going to pull up Hannigan. That would be so cool if it, oh, it does. How delightful. So this is my sample student, Samantha sample. Okay. And you'll notice in Samantha's advisory notes, that the first thing at the top is the date and a list of priorities. So this is a list of things this person is planning to work on in the next week. And they have accumulated this list, perhaps before the advisory meeting, perhaps during. But as you scroll down, you'll see there's a list of full year courses they are taking all year long. And we have their current standing, what their current grade is in those courses. And sometimes there's notes about things that they might want to circle back and do. Sometimes there's little celebrations. This is just a quick overview that we can look at the teen and the advisor, and we update each time. Then semester 1 is, those are the seminars that they are taking and current standing for seminars. In semester 2, this sample advisory notes is from a sample if someone was in September. So they haven't had semester 2 yet, but their courses are listed there. They have the portfolio projects for us to discuss because they're going to do the wellness initiative and the What Are You Thinking course. But then this person, we also have added a section that says friend connection, because maybe this learner has said to me, I'm just really wanting to make sure I can stay connected with my friends. It's been a really hard couple of years for that. So we've brainstormed some ideas so that we can circle back and talk about that each week. And then you'll notice something interesting. It says 9/21/21. That starts what we had typed the week before. So every week when I meet with this human, I would copy the notes and add it to the top. So you could scroll down and see all of the notes from the meetings previously to kind of see progress, or, oh, what did we say was the priority 2 weeks ago? That kind of thing. So that's really helpful to have that record and to have the kind of documentation to help our conversations. It's also a really useful way for the adults to feel connected with what their teen is doing. And it gives our teens a tool to communicate with their families. You've seen my advisory notes. I'm working on biology this week, especially. I've got some goals. And it gives them a third point to look at to be able to share with their families what's happening and feel empowered, which is really cool. So one last thing I want to say that's so great about our advisories is that as much as possible, we hope you have the same advisor for all 4 years, because you're in the same studio as your home base for all 4 years. And so you really have the opportunity to have that adult get to know you as a human and help you plan and help answer your questions. And all the choice that we've built in, especially to the 3rd and 4th year here in the woods, to have an advisor that has known you since your 1st year, help you to look at what opportunities might best fit you, is also really useful. So one of my favorite parts of our program. So, and with that, another thing the advisor helps with is transitioning into adulthood. So I will pass it along to our next group here, which is Caitlin, Hannigan, and Jamie.
Yes, that's us. We will be talking about transitioning into adulthood, which is one of our favorite topics to discuss. So one of the very unique things about our school is our dual credit partnership. You'll see from a lot of high schools around the community, they might offer some dual credit courses there at their school, but we have a very special partnership with Ivy Tech Community College, where our teens actually go to Ivy Tech's campus and they take dual credit courses there. This means that they have a lot of options for which dual credit courses they want to take. Dual credit courses, they are exactly what their name is. They give you both a college credit and a high school credit for the course. With our partnership with Ivy Tech, we have 50% off of their tuition rates, which is very helpful, and it helps teens really get ahead in any courses that they're interested in taking in college. And they also help them complete some certifications that I'll talk about here in a minute at a reduced rate. Most of our teens begin taking dual credit courses their 11th level year, but we do have some instances where a teen feels and their family feels that they are ready to begin taking courses in their 10th level year. As I said, teens can take advantage of any courses. Oh, teens can take advantage of any courses that are offered through the Ivy Tech Sellersburg campus that they can qualify for. And there are several routes that a teen can take to qualify for courses. And if they are interested in a course, we will help them get where they need to be so they can take that course. We also have another option for dual credit courses, which is our Professor on Loan program. That is where Ivy Tech lends us a professor each semester, and it costs $175 currently, which is a little less than the regular courses with the 50% off. So it's even cheaper. In the fall, we typically offer English 111, which is English composition. And in the spring, we offer Com 101, which is Introduction to Public Speaking. These are both courses that qualify for English credits, and they are also courses that if a teen decides to continue into college after they graduate, they will more than likely be required to take those. So they will go ahead and get those knocked out while they're here. If you qualify for free and reduced lunch, you can get dual credit courses for much cheaper even. So there are lots of opportunities for everybody to get involved in dual credits. So this is just a little tiny sample of the types of courses that are offered through Ivy Tech. As you can see, there are both courses that may be general education courses that will help a teen investigate different fields that they might be interested in. And there are also a good selection of trade school courses. So if a teen is interested in pursuing like welding, we have a lot of teens who are very interested in welding, and it's a great career path. They can go ahead and get started on those kinds of classes while they're here with us. Dual credit certifications. So more and more of our teens are graduating from high school with certifications and college diplomas. One of these options, which we have several teens pursuing, is called the Indiana College Core. This is 30 credit hours of general education courses, and courses tend to be 3 to 4 credit hours each. These are the courses that most schools require that a learner take outside of courses that are specific to their major. So what this does is it transfers to any, if they complete this package, it transfers to any college in public college in Indiana, and it knocks out all their gen ed courses. So when they begin college, they can start focused on the courses that interest them. There are also opportunities to pursue associate's degrees. We have a few seniors this year who are graduating with associate's degrees. There is an associate's in general studies they can pursue. And they can also do the transfer as a junior program, which is basically an associate's degree in any field they're interested in. And they can then transfer into college and be finishing up the last 60 credit hours that they have. So the last 2 years of their college once they get there. So they'll have finished 2 years of college here in high school. Certifications. We have several teens this year also graduating with certifications in automotive, HVAC, and business. We also have teens pursuing welding and technology. And really, there are certifications in whatever field interests you. So if a teen is interested in it, we can investigate and help them on a path to get certified in that field. Hannigan, would you like to talk about junior seminar?
I would love to, yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for getting us this far. And I feel like some of these things have come up already. So I know we want to have time for questions. So I'm just going to touch on these quickly. But when Tracy gave the overview of the various courses that are typical for each cohort, you notice junior and senior seminar were added in there. And we added the senior seminar a few years ago because we had seen so many benefits from having the 9th and 10th levels having these common experiences. And so the benefits of a cohort and being able to have community and common experiences with folks who are going through the same things that you're going through, that was one of our big goals when we started the senior seminar. So several years ago, we wanted to provide more structure and support with that transition out of high school. We wanted to provide more support with the capstone process and graduation. If you're not aware, the learners plan their own graduation, and that is a big job. So if you've not been to one of Montessori's graduations before, you'll have that to look forward to when the time comes when we are able to invite in larger audiences outside of just the learners that are graduating. But it's an incredible experience and such an empowering journey as the seniors make all of those decisions themselves. So we do all of that sort of work in the senior seminar. And then we realized that the juniors were the only ones who weren't having this common cohort experience. And so this year is the first year for the junior seminar. And they are doing some of that prep work to get a leg up on some of the adventures that are ahead in their senior year. And they've been, as someone mentioned earlier, doing a lot of SAT prep. And they get to let all that hard work pay off tomorrow when they take the SAT. So they've already drafted, as we see here on the slide, some of their college application essays. They're starting some of that initial investigation work for career and college after high school. And they're getting all sorts of things done while having that benefit of a common experience with their cohort. Senior year, things get real. They take it to the next level. And you can see this picture here, the learners admiring one another's application or acceptance letters for their college applications that they've thrown out to schools all over the country. And so we've got a growing wall of acceptance letters, which is very exciting to see. So in the senior seminar, they are already hard at work with their graduation committees, planning everything from the ceremony itself to senior trips and all of the little details that go along with all of those things. And those capstones are coming right along. Somehow it's already March. And so they're starting to turn their attention towards the finishing touches on those things in the months ahead. Okay. I think this might be our last slide here. So I'm going to let Jamie tell us a little bit about the Teen Transition website.
So we in the Woods do an exceptional job of communicating with the adults in our learners' lives and keeping folks in the loop. And this is definitely the case for the Teen Transition team. Every couple of weeks, we send out the Teen Transition tabloid with all kinds of good information in it. In the tabloid, you'll get additional updates on standardized testing and internship opportunities. In addition, this will become increasingly important as your learner prepares to depart from CM, as there are updates on scholarships. In addition, we keep a well-updated website with potential dual credit opportunities, general info on the Woods, and a gallery of acceptance letters sent out to our learners. And if your learner is in the 7th or 8th level, please surf on over to the Transition Team website for information on the 21st Century Scholar application. But everyone on here should definitely take a few minutes to go check out the website.
Then we have one last final topic, which kind of fits in between a couple different areas of conversation that we've had today. I think there's one more slide, Hannigan.
I'm trying to make it go. I'll keep clicking.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so that is known as flex time, and Hannigan's going to work on getting that slide up on here at the moment. And flex time is something that we have been working on integrating in this year. It started as a combination between a need with the pandemic times, as well as also an opportunity for our teens as their schedules opened up a little bit. So as you might have noticed, they have more and more choice as they're going through each of their years. And as they get closer to those 11th and 12th years, they have more opportunities that are happening off campus. And we want them to be able to integrate in those off-campus experiences. So one of the ways that we do this is through that flex time opportunity. Oh, here it comes. So this is a time where maybe they're not fitting into that Woods weekly schedule that we showed earlier. And so the advisor and the teen will get together and come up with how flexible time can be used. So this might be a time that they use for additional internships, for additional off-campus experiences, such as job shadowing and college visits, or even opportunities to spend additional time on their dual credit campus, meeting with professors or whatnot, or even taking on different apprenticeships around the community. Okay. So I think at this point we are ready for questions. And again, you can ask your question in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that, and we will kind of present them to the whole group. Or feel free to raise your virtual hand, and we will be ready to call on you. Barbara.
Yes, Barbara.
Well, I just wanted to thank all the teen staff for putting this important information together. Oftentimes when we have new families at the school or families transitioning from 9 to 12 or 12 to 14, they have all these questions. So they just put it in a nice little slideshow for you and conversation, and they are a wealth of knowledge. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of them for information. It is humbling to see how much our teens have grown in all the ways over the last 10 years and do all the things. So anyway, thank you all very much.
You want me to read out questions, Danielle?
Oh no, I got it. For the new learners transitioning up to the Woods, how and when are those first choices made? Is that done before the end of this year, at the beginning of next year, or with parent involvement?
Yeah, I think that is a good question for those kind of first transition moments. This is part of the reason that we went with a very structured look for the 9th level year. And so you can expect generally a lot of similar things that we saw on that sample 9th year schedule. And we'll make sure to make this slideshow available to you all so you don't have to memorize it all right now. So they really have one seminar choice, and they will make that choice and assumption with their advisors in their first couple advisory meetings. But also the parent partner conferences are a really pivotal moment in that first year because a lot of conversations on what kind of diploma pathway they're looking for will happen during that time. You'll find that like those August and November conferences are really about getting those 9th levels completely adapted in and really reflecting on their new comfort by the November conference and kind of making decisions from there. So we've made it so that they don't have to enter high school with every single decision point made. It is something that they can kind of grow into throughout that first year. So yes, parents are involved, but there's also a group, many conversations that happen between advisor and advisee during those times. Barbara.
Me again. Sometimes a question that's often asked is, do you have grades, and do you do a transcript? And so I wondered if someone wanted to take that on.
Okay. Gloria, someone is answering you in the chat. And Barbara, I will answer you out loud. So in the question of do we have grades? Assessment is definitely something we have come to value in the Woods. And in short, our teens graduate with a transcript as well as a GPA. And colleges have become very familiar with how our transcript works. And how our GPA flows into their system. We tend to really stick with the term assessment over grade because our hope is that we just don't have teens chasing the A, if you will. We want to make sure our assessment process is kind of filled with critical feedback. And I don't mean critical in a bad sense, but that includes critical positive feedback and critical kind of feedback on their goal areas. And just making sure we're not just letting them know, oh yeah, this is all great, but letting them know why their work has progressed in one way or another and why we kind of believe they're kind of exceeding our expectations or meeting our expectations. And so that progresses a little bit throughout the years also. Hannigan, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just quickly. I'm actually having a ball with the 9th levels right now, talking about just these things because they've experienced now their first GPA. They've got some assessments from their fall semester, and suddenly things start to become a little more concrete in what has been a pretty abstract arena up till then. And so we walk an interesting line between not wanting to get the learners hyper-focused on an assessment level and a GPA and pursuing that above choice and all of the other things that we value. However, we want to be real with them, make sure that they know that the choices that they make do impact those assessment levels, and that your transcript is one way that you tell your story to the world outside of Community Montessori. And so I talk with the 9th levels, and then I know this is throughout all of our various courses and things that we teach. We talk about, does your transcript reflect your capability levels and the things that feel consistent to you? Do you feel like your transcript is matching how you view your talents and capabilities? And if somebody maybe dropped the ball with a course in the fall, suddenly it becomes really real and they say, oh, no, actually, I feel like I'm capable of meets or even exceeding requirements. And then it allows them to continue with working intrinsically to try to make sure that their assessment levels reflect their skill set and capabilities. So we try to make sure they understand the real world components of that and how it reflects their capabilities outside of here in one way. But we also want to make sure that they feel empowered by that process.
Yes, Nikki?
All right. We had a question from Dana. How do these schedules and required classes for graduation work with special needs kids who are on an IEP? And I'll go ahead and take that one. I'm the developmental specialist director for the school, and I primarily work in the teens program. And so my job, as well as my team up in the Woods, communicate with the island's family or learners and their advisors about their transition to high school. And we have a team of developmental specialists in the Woods that will continue services just as they received in the islands program. And we work very, very closely with advisors and learners to support them in their coursework. So we try to make it as seamless as possible in providing that transition for learners. And the islands kids know my face. I'm in the islands quite a bit, and the developmental specialists from both levels communicate really well. So we try to make it seamless, and services continue just as they were before.
And if I may, I would just add that arguably one of the most valuable things that the DSs provide in terms of a service for these learners is working with the teaching team, the advisors who are leading courses, to find appropriate accommodations for sometimes waiving assignments, but sometimes just thinking through, well, what's a more realistic assignment for this human who has a learning difference, who can thrive in different ways and show learning in different ways. And sometimes the teaching team does that automatically and does it preemptively, and sometimes we don't. And so that's a great, I think, a huge asset that we have from the DS team to really help us think through that piece and be really conscious about that, and make sure we're continuing to build in those accommodations for our assignments and the curriculum at large.
And I think even to add that on a little bit more, one of the things that we try to focus on as our IEP learners get a little bit closer to graduation is helping them to transition the self-advocacy role that they've learned here outside into the world. So we try to help them practice those conversations that they might have with an employer or they might have with a college professor down the road, and work through those kind of hard moments, particularly if they're able. And that's something that we really work closely with DS on, and work closely to see when they're developmentally ready to really jump into those more adulty roles.
Abby?
Thank you. I just have to circle it back to advisories also, not just because it was my topic today, but because it really enables us not just to individualize education for those that have that IEP, but also for each of our learners. You know, in those advisory meetings, we help to instill that self-advocacy in all of our learners to reach out and ask for something different or unique, help them brainstorm ideas too. And so I think that's an additional way that we do a wonderful job of supporting all of our learners' individual needs.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Oh, we've got one last question. When will learners moving up make their schedules? Their schedule, their fall schedule is pretty much made for them based on the courses that we showed you today. So they will start off with that humanities course that includes English and world history, the science, the big history of Earth and space, Algebra 1, or whatever advanced math they might be in coming up from the islands. I'm missing something.
Adult roles and responsibilities.
Thank you. Adult roles and responsibilities. And they'll choose with their advisor at the first part of the year if they're going to go ahead and start world language then or wait. And they'll work with their advisor typically between October and November to decide on what their seminar of choice will be in the second semester. Thank you all. Sending big love out in your direction also.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Bye, thanks.
we're just going to have to go ahead and log off in order for the recording to stop.